Ready to go.
Okay. Hello everybody and welcome back. Today we're working on this Cub Cadet LT1045. Now I picked it up a couple of days ago and she doesn't want to move and she doesn't want to start. Now I did put a little bit of starter fluid in it and she stumbled around a little bit, so it tells me it's got a fuel problem. So we're going to work on figuring out what the fuel problem is, and we're going to go ahead and put a battery in it or try to give this one a charge. I'm going to let her sit for a couple hours and then we'll get back to it then. So let's get started. Okay, she's been on the charger for a couple hours now. And we still haven't come up far, so we're probably going to end up having to replace the battery on it. I tried to turn it over and didn't get a whole lot of anything. So the first question we've got is the fuel pump working? Air filter looks good. So let's go ahead and pull this off. We're going to pull the fuel line off and see if she's pumping gas at all. What we're going to do is remove the fuel line right here. And since our fuel's in the back, it's pumping a good distance, so the pump won't just pour gas forward, or at least it shouldn't. Okay, let's see if she'll let go for us. Have to move a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put a new fuel line on this before we're done, so I'm not real worried about hurting this one. There we go. We see a few drops of gas, and that indicates that it may be trying to pump gas. So now we're going to go ahead and put this down, and we're going to turn the motor over, holding this cup here. That's easier said than done. As you can see, we got nothing. We're getting some fuel, but not enough to matter. So I went ahead and picked up the back end. And if you look at it, you can see the fuel line right here. Not super obvious, but she's got about a quarter tank, and the fuel is usable. And after doing a little bit more research, I went ahead and blew air into here and realized that I wasn't getting any bubbles in the tank. Or if I was, it was just a microscopic amount. So we put pressure on the tank itself, and guess what we discovered? I can't blow through the fuel line. So the next step is to put a new fuel line on it. Now we know we've got fuel running through the system. The old fuel line, when we pulled it off, was super clogged. Nothing would flow through it. It looks like it got a kink in it along the way. So you can see fuel in the filter. And when I tried to start it with this off, it's pumping gas pretty well, but she still won't run on her own without starter fluid. So the next thing we're going to do is check the solenoid on the carburetor. And we're going to do that by first make sure we've got power going to it, and we've got nothing. So now we're going to turn the key on, and theoretically we'll have 12 volts. That'll tell us our electrical system's okay. And you can see on the gauge we've got 12 volts. Okay, perfect. So we know this is okay. However, when we plug it in, you don't hear that clicking noise. When you turn it on and off, you should hear the solenoid click. And we get nothing. So that tells us our solenoid's no good. So we're going to go ahead and throw a whole carburetor on this and test her again. When you're doing one of these, make sure you take pictures of the linkage, because you see this tiny little spring on the outside that's hidden by the bar. You take a picture straight down, you'll make sure you get it back together the same way. Now normally these carburetors are super easy to rebuild. It's the jets inside that are always a problem. But since this one's got a solenoid and the solenoid's not talking, and I can't find another solenoid to replace it, we're going to go ahead and just put a carburetor on it and be done with it on this one. Let's put you over here. Okay, let's pull our wires. Pull our fuel line. Probably should have done that when she was on the studs, but we didn't. Since this one's been off once before, it should come off pretty easy. The fuel line, that is. There we go. We'll tuck it in over here above the tank. At least we'll try to. There we go. Now we'll pull the spring first. Nope, that spring's not cooperating, so we'll do it last. And keep in mind that when you take these apart, you want to put it back together in the reverse order. Now we're going to be gentle with this little spring. We're not going to pull too far away, so we don't want to stretch it out. There we go. And our new carb will go back on the opposite way. Interesting enough, now that we've got this apart, we're going to take a look at this real quick and make sure that this is stock. Okay, after a little bit of research, it turns out that this is indeed how it's supposed to go together. This is a correct factory setup. So even though I don't necessarily agree with the design, I'm not going to say anything. Now we usually put everything together in the opposite order of the way it came apart. We're going to save that spring for last because it was just a little hard to get to. And I don't like to put springs on first because they tend to get torn up that way. There we go. And now that we've got this done, we're going to let the carburetor sit here and we're going to go ahead and put the bolt on, which holds our backing plate in place, which holds our stud in place, which we put the carburetor on. Gotta love it. Love to have a conversation with the boys over at Kohler about why they designed it this way. But I'm sure they had their reasons. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Up, 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 up. Yeah, we almost did. We almost didn't do that. And there we go. We plug this in. Get the fuel line plugged back in. And let's put the air box on. Or at very least the backer for the air box. There we go. Now she's lined up nicely, and of course these are 10 millimeters. They're always 10 millimeters nowadays, holding most of these engines together. Okay, everything looks nice and tight. So let's see if she'll start. Okay, now for the big test. Put her on about half throttle, full choke. Now I got fingerprints all over the exhaust, and I think I spilled oil on it when I was checking the oil on it, so this might be smoky. She sounds pretty good. I have a feeling that this one sat just a little bit longer than he told me it did. The fuel line was completely clogged, so I replaced it up to the pump and then from the pump to the carburetor. And because I couldn't hear the solenoid, we also put a carburetor on. But when I drained the fuel out, about the first 6 ounces that came out of the tank were pure water. And we all know that ethanol will separate with water, and it absorbs water out of the air. So it takes a long time. It'll take a year for that much water to build up. So I have a feeling I know why the rear end's locked up. And that's going to be the next video. So if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. It's free and it's what we work for. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.